Okay, so we've looked at the 3 primary colours and making them darker and lighter. So the next thing is, how do you get these intermediate colours? Obviously you can go and buy a tangerine paste or a gooseberry green paste or a grape violet paste, and eventually that's probably what you'll do because it's a lot easier to do that than to mix colours. But initially, when you're first starting out, you don't want to pay out a whole load of money for stuff that you may only use occasionally. So to get, for example, the orange, that's a mix of red and yellow. You can find these mixes on the internet to show you the primary colours. If you're not used to primary and secondary colours, look them up on the net and it will tell you what they are and what the mixes are. So yellow and red make orange, yellow and blue make green, and blue and red make purple. So that's a good start for you. Now, it depends on the shade of orange or green you want as to your proportions that you use. We've shown you here the proportion we've used to make that particular green, and we've used for that particular orange. But it'll depend on whether you want a reddy orange or a yellowy orange, and you can adjust the colours accordingly. But to make the orange, take a small piece of paste, if you have a cell cake size guide, that's a good way of doing this because you can roll out your ball, put it on the cell cake size guide, and you've got a measurement instead of a weight, which is probably easier for you to work with. And then a very small piece of the red, and we're going to mix those together. And as you can see, we're starting to get the orange showing through. Again, as with this, I would start with your dark pastes and then add them to the bulk. Make your orange deeper than you want it so that you can then add to white, which will pale it off to the colour you want. So that's your orange. And again, this one's dried, so you can see the difference between when they are fresh and once they have dried. And I'll just show you one more. If you use the yellow with a small piece of blue, this time I actually have used a slightly bigger piece of the blue to show you the difference. Mix them together, and this time you should get a much more minty green because it's got more blue in it than the original one that we did. And really all I can say is it's experience. Try out proportions. And the one thing, by making it into small balls like this, you can then scale it up to the size that you want, but you're not wasting paste. You're using a little bit. You know, if you make a note of what colours you've used, you will get to the colour you want, and then you can say, well, it was half blue and half yellow, or however you want to do it, but that one's come out a slightly deeper, slightly mintier green. So the more blue you add, the more deep minty colours you'll get. The more yellow you add, the more vibrant springy colours you get, and it's really a matter of experience to try it all out. So that's your basic primaries. Mix them up. The purple is the same, it's a red and a blue. In this case, to show you the colour on camera, we also added a small amount of white because it came out a very dark shade. So we've added that bit of white there in. Now if we'd have added more white in, you would have got more of a lilac shade. So the more white you add, the lighter that colour will go until it gets to a very pale sort of lilac-y shade. However, it is like the grape violet, it is quite a bluey violet when you mix those two colours. So we'll show you our favourite mix, because purple is definitely one of those colours that people do like. And our favourite way of doing it is using the pink and the ice blue. The ice blue gives you a much more vivid blue than the blueberry. If you see the difference, don't know whether you can see it on camera or on your computer, because obviously colours do vary slightly, but that one's a much more primary blue. This one has a more sea blue colour. It's much more vibrant. The pink is just that little bit brighter as well. Unfortunately, with edible food colours and in the EEC, the only way to make a really vivid purple is by using non-edible colours. So this is the nearest you're going to get to a good purple, unfortunately, at the present time. Obviously different countries do have different regulations for what colours you can use, so you do need to check into that, and you may be able to use something like the fuchsia droplet colours or powder colours with your particular country, but in the EEC this is not an edible colour. So I'm going to colour up one ball using the ice blue, and with that particular shade we used about half and half. So there's your ice blue. I'm going to use about the same size, other side of the toothpick, otherwise you're going to pre-mix it. And add that. This is the pink. So we have it. Right, so we've got our two separate colours. I'm going to take a little bit of this one, and it's about the same amount of that one, and mix them together. Now again, if it seems a bit blue for you, I mean Cadbury's purple is probably that's probably about as near as you'll get. You can lighten it off with a little bit of white to make it look a bit more vivid, but that's probably as near as you'll get because it's quite a bluey purple. But if you wanted to look a bit more mauvey purple, just add a bit more pink. And that's gone more to a sort of regally purple there. So we now know how to colour the secondary colours, and any other colours you can make from those same ones. It's just experimenting. Mix a little bit of each together and you will get to any of the range that are within the Sugarflair range, but the fact is it's a lot easier to buy those ready mixed, and you can add those to your collection as and when you need them. Now we've seen how to make your colours darker using the black. A little bit of black added just gives you that deeper shade, blue to navy, red to ruby, etc. But to make a dusky colour like this dusky pink or a mauvey colour, a lot of people say, well, how do you do that? Black doesn't really do it. It tends to make it a bit mucky. I'm making this into a lighter pink so that you can see the difference. That's a little bit of that deep shade of pink mixed with some white. And here I have a small ball of brown. This is the dark brown from Sugarflair. So what we're going to do is add a small amount of this brown, and if you need that through, and you've now got a nice dusky shade of pink. So if you want those slightly offbeat colours, just a small bit of brown added to any of the other colours will give you just that slightly offbeat, dusky shade to it. And you can add it to yellow, purple, whatever, and it will just dull it down that little bit. So if you want to keep these colours, what I suggest, don't keep them too long, but if you think you're going to need them next week to complete a cake or whatever, mix them up and then put them into a freezer bag. Make sure they're sealed completely. Never use cling film or saran wrap with this paste, because that really pulls out the moisture and you'll find that they dry terribly with that. You do need a good quality freezer bag, or one of those little Ziploc bags are absolutely ideal with the air taken out, and they will keep for quite a long time, and that means you can use them and you don't have to get your hands dirty every time. So hopefully I've shown you a few different ideas that you can make with just simply these, well, including your pink and blue. There's only 6 colours there.